All right, so I told you who our guests are. We're excited. They're all ready now. They're all seated either by their phones or here in the studio. Theodore Achina-Nyarko is a lawyer and criminologist. Gerard Osei Boakye, my senior from Agasco. That's all I've said, though. I haven't added any more filler than that. He's the senior manager in Group Corporate Affairs and the director of Golden Star Resources. And we have Selorm Branttie, who's the vice president at Imani-Africa, as well as Anny Osabutey. He's a member of our family here, and he works with the YouTube channel Pram City TV. Gerard has joined us. We're so excited you could make it. How about you?
Fine, thank you.
Excellent. It's always great to see you, senior. And don't worry, I won't release the
I'm sure you
name.
finished releasing it.
I can be bribed. All right. So today we've decided to turn things a little bit on its head, but with good reason. I think little by little we are losing a certain sense of democracy in this country. It feels sometimes as if the majority doesn't rule. How can a whole nation want something? But if the few people in leaders don't want it, it doesn't happen. You know? I'm talking, of course, about Galamsey, which I have no doubt will pop up in some of your presentations today. Now, that feeling that the majority is not ruling must be defeated. And that's why we've decided to do this today. Okay, that's why it's the people's agenda today. So it is the people who will tell us what matters to them, what bothers them, what concerns them. And we take action based on that. So the four of you are sort of our representatives, if you like. You're going to tell us what matters to you, and then we'll carry that forward into the conversation with our audience. So Selorm, Anny, Theodore, and Gerard, let's get started. And if you don't mind, I'll start with my senior. So listen, it's your floor. You've got a good 5 minutes, so take it away.
Well, thank you very much, Kojo, and good morning, listeners. Good morning, my co-guest.
Good morning.
And it's interesting, and thank you for inviting me here. This morning, for me, I just want to wish my fellow workers Happy Workers' Day.
Oh, indeed.
That's why I wore my uniform, so that they know I'm in solidarity with them.
Golden Star representing.
Golden Star, yes, on the mine and everywhere. Yeah. Congratulations, especially the ladies on the mine. I wish them well. And I'm sure that it is someone saying all the things that touch my heart, because in the last 2-3 weeks, I've been talking about how our mine was vandalized. Yes, that touched my heart, and that hurts us, and it hurts Ghana and everything. And you're doing a good job at talking about it in the last 3 weeks and taking it to different heights. Thank you very much. But there are some other things or some other issue that hurts me a lot. And since I was 40, I've been involved in that, and I've tried. And I hear there's a criminologist online, so it even makes it.
Here's our criminologist.
Nice.
Yep.
You know, as we sit here, there's a place in Ghana, one place, where seniors, that is like senior boys or junior adults, male, are sent to, and they spend 3 years of their lives there when they misbehave, or when they've been to court and nobody has come and they've been found guilty of some crime or the other. The Senior Correctional Center at Rumarich.
Yeah.
I spend time there a lot. And last weekend I was there with Apostolic Nuncio, and there were boys as young as 12, 13 there. And they're supposed to be corrected. So they have workshops. Some of them who are in school are taken to school. But could you, like you heard some time ago, they are fed on 1 cedi or something like that a day.
Yeah, 1 cedi, 90%.
How can we do that to ourselves? And that actually touches my heart. When you take boys there, they are not supposed to be in prison. They are supposed to learn and be corrected and come back, so that they don't go back as adults into the senior prison. So we're just repeating, they go back. If they don't have any training, they become hardened criminals, and they come back to the senior prison. If they are caught, if they are not caught, they're still hanging around. And this is our society. You know, I mean, I would give the chance to others to talk because it really
take to heart. I mean, if you don't mind, let me ask you a few things about it. You've been there, you've seen the state in which these young boys who are supposed to be corrected are being kept. Tell us, I mean, what are the things they are lacking, the visible things you can see are missing, which they would need if they were to really be corrected?
Look, it's not all of them have been dropouts or have come from school. Some of them were street kids and so have not been to a classroom. But whatever situation they found themselves before coming, or they find themselves now, there's one thing that can actually keep them healthy and change them sports. Until some time back, once in a while they get donation of sports items, but most of them were shoeless. So
walking around barefoot.
Yeah. Wow. So not all of them can even get involved in the aerobics and the PE and the sports that they do. So my foundation found some money, and every year we try, for the last 3 years, we try and replace the boots and the soccer shoes that we give them. And that at least helps them to continue their sports. Because sports, you don't have to necessarily sit in a classroom to get. And I'm thinking that if even just sports, there's an academy in there, a lot of them will come out looking to the future with a much brighter hope. A lot of them, when they are ready to even come out, they don't even feel like going. Some parents don't even go back for them.
Oh no.
Yes, they get stigmatized and they don't even want to go home.
Wow.
And that is just sports, but they have about 13 workshops there. Leatherworks, the tailoring department, beading. There's so many other workshops in there which are under-resourced, which if they do, because think about it, from morning to evening, what do they do? And by law, at 6 o'clock, they're all locked up in their, in quotes, dormitories, but they are more or less like, you don't want to call them cells because they're juniors, but that's their life in a day. Okay. And they have an organic farming program there where the PSG is helping them to, and I mean there are good things happening there, because now Accra City Hotel wants to buy all the organic products from them.
That's
because we got them trained and they've started organic farming, and that's all they do is just organic.
A glimmer of hope there, but still a lot needs to be done for them.
There's a lot more improvement.
Yeah. You know, earlier this morning, George Riafi made a point that these things could happen to any of us. Anybody could find themselves or their children in such a situation.
If you hear the stories that you yourself have been telling of yourself, our time in Augustine's, any of us, but for the fact that we had responsible parents, could have ended up in the senior correctional center. Any of us. I mean, some are there for just taking, meat, stealing this, doing that. But do you understand the situation he was in? He was from probably a broken home. There was nobody to watch out for him. We go out and there's so many things that as kids we were doing, but definitely there's somebody at 6 o'clock who will come out and ask for you and look for you, and so you're safe. But these are boys who didn't have that opportunity or don't have that opportunity like us.
Wow. This is really a big thing you've given us to think about, Gerard. Look, when you're in school, when you're going to write an exam, they tell you how to earn all the different marks. So they'll tell you maybe 60% of your mark will come from your understanding of the issue, 40% will come from your correct working of it, maybe some 10% will come from this. When a society is being marked, 100% of their mark comes from how they treat the most vulnerable.
Thank you.
That's how a society is judged. So this is important. I'm glad we started with this issue, something for us to really think about. I want to go round. We'll do one in the studio, do one out, in and out. Let's raise all the issues. So, Selorm, if you don't mind, I'd love to hear from you. What is your agenda?
Good morning, Kujo.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning again, and everybody in the panel. Good morning. Good morning. It's a great morning for reflection, especially if we think about the fact that today's the day that all workers are supposed to be relaxing and then everything else. And I think, Gerard started the day talking about something that was very poignant. which is a matter of the youth and how we intend to treat them. I also believe that I would also take it even from there and talk about the fact that for me, one of my biggest concerns is that over 65% of Ghanaians today are below the age of 35. Mm-hmm. When I was finishing secondary school in 1996, Ghana's population was 15 million, which means that today, for every Ghanaian that was alive then, there are 2 Ghanaians today, which means that half of them are literally below the age of 25 or 26. My issue is the fact that we seem to have, on the altar of politics and politicization, neglected really what the plan is for the future of the youth of this country. And we have doubled or played around with the education that they have, or they are getting, to the extent that we are creating a future where a lot of our youth would not be relevant in contemporary job spaces or contemporary skills spaces. And I believe that it is as a result of poor planning and really a lack of attention as to why, or the goals, that the overall goals or vision that a nation like Ghana should have with regards to what its future should look like. We have allowed self-serving politics and self-serving politicians, and we have enabled them to the level of boldness where they can work with impunity, and therefore what they do and the consequences thereof is reflecting on the generation that is supposed to take over us, or the generation right behind us, or the Gen Z as we all call it.
Yeah.
Whilst quite a few, by dint of their own hard work and their own ambitions, are moving forward, you would realize that once you leave, even when you leave the most posh urban areas and you go even to the lesser endowed urban areas and the rural areas, there is very little despondency. There's very little in terms of hope, ambition, and anything for the future. And I think that we are creating a recipe for disaster for ourselves as a nation if we don't begin to find ways to set some of these things right. The biggest problem that we have today that are topical issues, the galamsey and all of that. If you watch TikTok videos or you go on social media where a lot of youth are, you realize that they have adopted a devil-may-care, survive with whatever it is attitude, because they believe that the people who are there to have actually created that environment for them to thrive have failed. And so for them, they see it as a wild, wild west scenario. And it is being enabled, or because we have people who, instead of leading a generation into success, are only thinking about the success of their pocket and their friends and family, and to a larger extent their party. The party-dominated thinking, or that kind of trajectory that we are on, is a path that is undemocratic, if you put it that way, because now it has led to the situation where we do not even have elected representatives who sit and debate and discuss issues in the interest of the nation, but in the interest of their egos, in the interest of their alliances, in the interest of what they get, but personally at the expense of even immediate family. And it is becoming a whole cocktail that if this nation continues drinking, we might not have a stable country within the next 15 to 20 years. And for me, I believe that it all starts from how we are, the examples we are setting, and how we are grooming the young ones to take over where we have not been able to progress. We are not doing the right thing, and I believe that all of us have to come together as a nation and have a talk or figure out how to fix this problem before it gets completely out of hand. It is out of hand now, but then it will get completely out of hand in the very near future if we do not begin to arrest these problems. Already, the cocoa sector is having issues because the average age of a cocoa farmer is about 50 now. The young ones are not taking up that, and they are selling the land,
Yeah.
The young ones are not taking up agriculture as it should because we have only listened to slogans with very little attention to work on the ground. We have entrepreneurial ventures that cannot grow because there is very little access to capital. And education itself at the secondary level, in most cases at the public secondary level, is at probably its lowest point in the because we are not taking care of our children and we are giving them 97 years worth of food a day. This is not how to grow a nation. Surely not in the 21st century. Surely not in the beginning of the second decade of the 21st century. Yeah. When we as Africans are going to be the most dominant population in the world within the next 20 years. So for me, that is my answer for the day, and I hope that is something that Ghanaians also share. And Ghanaians also feel an urgent need to quit.
Yeah. Wow, Selorm. I mean, it's a bit alarming, actually, when you think about the implications of everything you've said. Because really, if you're right, then this growing population, this growing youth population of our country, we are ensuring that they will be irrelevant. We are ensuring that they will be unproductive.
Currently, every year we churn out about 50 to 100,000 university graduates every year.
Yeah.
Most of them come out into a job space that is not there, and with a skill set that is not even relevant anymore because 70% of them are doing liberal arts for office jobs that do not even exist.
It's a problem. And of course, this thing about the cocoa farmers, average age 50. That's it. I mean, essentially, we'll wake up one day and we won't have a cocoa industry. We just won't have it.
Yes, and we even have the land to even cultivate them. I mean, yesterday, if you follow my Facebook, out of curiosity, I just took an area that is about 10 kilometers square of Otino engineering side. And I looked at satellite pictures from 2017 to date. And between 2017 and 2019, the greenery was amazing. And this is one of the best areas, just at the beginning of the cocoa belt of Ghana. And then within the space of 2 years, from late 2019, early 2020 to 2023, 70% of that whole space has been degraded because of the Osei, and it is right in the bed of the Dwayne River. And this was just one sample size I took. And I'm just trying to begin to think that across the nation and across different riverbeds and the rest, where you also have some of the most irrigable land where you can actually easily irrigate with some of the best vegetation potential. If this is what the youth have decided to do, what are we doing 5 years from now, even 10 years from now? Today there's a crisis in Burkina Faso, a terrorist crisis in Burkina Faso, and it has led to a huge spike of tomatoes in Ghana, which means that there's already going to trigger another bout of food-triggered inflation in a dispensation where we already have very high inflation. You see, these are the consequences of some of the things that we have always been agitating about, which always ends up on the altar of politics and then is destroyed by the ego of people who think that their names or what it is more important than the lives of their people.
Oh dear. Listen, if you just joined us on this holiday edition of the Super Morning Show, we are doing the People's Agenda. It's a new thing we've started. We're going to be doing it often, and the idea is we're taking the power back for the people. So you tell us what matters to you, and then we deal with those. That becomes the agenda. Already we've heard two very youth-centered issues raised by two of our guests, Gerard Osei of Golden Star and Selorm Branttie of Imani-Africa. We've got two more guests to hear from. Anny Osabutey works with the YouTube channel Pram City TV. And here in the studio, we're going to hear next from Theodore Achina-Nyarko. He's a lawyer and a criminologist. Theodore, what's your agenda?
Thank you very much once again, Kojo. Greetings to your cherished listeners and to my big brother here, Mr. Boakye. Kojo, I think you will agree with me that the problems of this country are more than we can count with our fingers.
Yeah.
Even if one should add the toes, you will not be able to count all of it.
Yeah.
And so issues like Galamsey and that Mr. Boakye mentioned concerning the challenge at our correctional facilities, these are problems that require urgent fixing. I have no doubt that we have a very good legislation by way of the Juvenile Justice Act. Unfortunately, the issue has to do with the fact that financing the kind of correction that we want to afford this youth is what we are not, getting. And so I think that it is important that it is urgently fixed so that we rid ourselves from the problem of recidivism. Because if you do not correct them well, if you don't get the desired results, we end up, as Mr. Boakye said, creating more problems that we want to fix. Having said that, my take or my issue has to do with that common sight and one that is so awful on us in our towns and cities, and I mean the invasion of cattle on daily basis. I was surprised to find that there have been a lot of media publications on the problem. Whether you've read them or not, we all will attest to the fact that this is a menace which need urgent fixing. Just yesterday, my brother was driving on the Accra-Tema motorway, and all of a sudden, a cow rushed from the bush onto the street.
On the motorway?
On the motorway. At that particular instance, there was another car coming at the speed that he could, maybe avoid hitting this cow. Eventually, he had to hit it.
He had to hit the cow?
He hit the cow. It died instantly. His car got damaged. And then
the cow died and his car got damaged.
The cow died instantly.
Right.
And he had some damages to his car. It was then that this issue caught my attention. If you go around town, you will see herds of cattle roaming around us on the streets of our cities and towns and residential areas. This should not be the case. But we are having to, to witness this on a daily basis. I think this is a threat to road users, to motorists, and I don't know whether you agree with me, that is a threat to national security. Why am I saying that? God forbid, assuming what happened yesterday happened whilst the president was in the convoy. You can imagine, what it would have caused, because the situation will be more than it happened to my brother in a convoy situation. And so I think that this issue has to be fixed. There are offenders who must desist from this act, and there are authorities who are mandated or charged to deal with this or prevent this.
Are there identified laws that these cattle herders are breaking by, allowing their cattle to basically graze anywhere?
If you look at our Local Governance Act, 2016, Act 936, Section 181 of the Act provides or gives us some powers to our district and municipal assemblies to legislate bylaws, to curtail specific problems in their localities. And so you would see, I looked at just one of them, you would see that the Accra Metropolitan Authority bylaw, which was published in the local government bulletin, and that was in 2009. 2019, you would see that they have legislated or made a law in respect of controlling animals.
Right.
And what you would find is that we have a beautiful and well-drafted law, in the sense that one even require permit per paragraph 1 of the referred bylaw, require a permit before you could raise or rear animals. But then, of course, you realize that in paragraph 2 also, that same bylaw allows people or persons, allows them to raise the same animals we are talking about for some purposes when it has to do with religion, customary, and for domestic purposes. You are allowed. But that same bylaw provides some conditions under which these animals are to be kept. But what is interesting to find, if you look at paragraph 2 of the bylaw that I've mentioned, you realize that it is clear that you cannot leave your animals, cattle, swine, and other dogs and goats to just roam about. So the problem is not about law.
The law is
because we have the law. But the problem, as I would later on say, and has to do with enforcement. And so this is the problem we are having to do. So you realize that under, as I mentioned, the act that I mentioned, the Parent Act, which is the Local Governance Act that I mentioned, it has empowered all our district assemblies to legislate, have their own bylaws. And so they all have their laws in respect of controlling animals. But the problem has to do with enforcement.
I mean, I don't know when you talked about 2019, but way before, as kids, we had people come around from the town council ensuring that your animals are not roaming about. I remember that. Long time.
Yes.
And they would even, when I remember my grandmas, I would also make sure.
I also grew up experiencing that. But today we don't have that. And could you let me just say
goats and
this?
chickens and things can roam
the
about.
problem we have is that if you look at this invasion, if you go to the hinterlands, you may have that same kind of thing happening, but they are always with some herdsmen. But when it comes to the cities and towns, these animals roam around with no herdsmen to guide them and direct them. And that is how dangerous it is for us.
The city animals, they know the city.
So they need to go out on their own. But you know, but it's just an illustration of how all the big problems we have today are little problems that we neglected yesterday. Right? And this would seem the simplest thing, something we were handling easily back in the day when we were kids. Because I remember the same thing. They would tell us to make sure that the dog is in the courtyard, because if it goes out, it will be caught and we'll never see it again. Right? I remember these things. But somewhere along the line, somebody decided that's not a priority. So they stopped dealing with it. And now we are hitting cows on the motorway. Okay. If you just joined us, it's the People's Agenda. Our guest, Theodore Nyarko, has just told us his agenda, and it's a scary one. We've already heard from Selorm Branttie, Vice President of Imani-Africa. His agenda had to do with how we are, wasting our youth. Gerard Osei had a similar issue to do with how we are not correcting our youth, who we put in the correctional system. And Theodore has just told us his very, very scary issue of cattle allowed to roam free in urban areas, and they are becoming a threat to our safety. We're now going to hear from Anny Osabutey. Anny is with the YouTube channel Pram City TV, but he's a member of our family here, as his name obviously needs no explanation. Anny, What's your agenda?
Hi, good morning, Pedro. And good morning to everyone. I really associate myself with virtually everything that has been said, about the Galamsey issue, about cattle walking freely in town, and just as the gentleman said, and as you also corroborated. I remember when I was growing up in the 80s, I mean, there was a town council group with a big truck, and they would go around, trying to arrest animals, or stray dogs, cattle, or goats, and things like that. Yeah. And sometimes I tell friends that it looks like in Ghana, the more we age in terms of our years, the harder we continue to retrogress, And today I would like to essentially talk about a couple of things we really want to talk about. For example, the Public Accounts Committee that sits in books and nothing happens. But I'll be much more interested in focusing my conversation on the Tama motorway and the danger it poses to motorists. And the fact that one of the brilliant ideas by which the motor was established, was built essentially, was to link the harbour city to the rest of the world. However, today we sit, and I use the motorway constantly because I live in Prampram, and I know you also use it. Yeah. Selorm uses the motorway. And if you see the state of the motorway today, the portal, it's such a danger. And this is a major highway that represents the body and soul of the country. Sometimes I tell people that, for example, if you look at to see how we run things in this country, the motorway is a perfect example of that. That, for the fact that as a nation, we have sat down for a major road that is such an economic viable platform for us. Today we are talking about after. We have after headquarters here. We want businesses to come. We want to create opportunities for our own people. And yet the roads on which these vehicles will have to cut the goods from one point to the other is such a danger. I use the motorway every day, and it's such a sorry state. And year in, year out, we hear stories about, this much has been earmarked for government to fix the roads, and you come back and it is the same thing. Sometimes you wonder how on earth you slap, for example, bitumen on a concrete floor. It just doesn't make sense. And you wonder, people go to school to learn, right? They get the certification, they are taught that 1 + 1 is 2. But when you get to the real work, I don't know for whatever motivation, they want us to believe that 1 + 1 is 6. So you wonder what really is the priority. I use the motorway every day, and it's in a terrible state. Look, I remember, was it last year so when they shut the motorway because they wanted to do some repair works and all of that? Yeah. It was not even communicated to the public. Alternative routes were not even created for people. I was going to work and I got stuck in traffic for close to 6 hours. Wow. Productive hours gone. So and people have to shout, I wrote an open letter to the minister. People have to complain before, for example, that they came back with, okay, do this and that. Because initially they would say the claim was that the motor was going to be in, a couple of, 6 weeks or so. I would complain, and fortunately they were able to finish on time, and they opened the roads up for it. But I can tell you, today, you can send your reporters down there. That very same spot, if you go today, as we speak, the cracks continue to widen by the day. And it's on both sides of the motorway. It has no street light. So I ask myself, what can we get right in this country? If the common motorway, we cannot fix it, how can we fix things? I live in Prampram, for example. You come to Prampram, you take the main junction into the town, and the potholes are like Owari. You understand? You are driving, you have to swing from one end to the other, and the whole stretch is opaque. You have to throw your highlights on, and in doing so, you also risk the life of the oncoming vehicle. So what do? You are forced to do that. At the same, yes, we have a district assembly. We have local assembly engineers who are supposed to work to ensure that bits and pieces of these things are fixed. But the stories we hear that, there is no money doesn't come to us. So I ask myself, what's the essence of even setting up the district assembly in the first place? If you're going to set up a governance structure
to run the affairs, to be able to sort of ease the burden on national, of the executive, or at the top level, at the central government, and you will not resource them to work, then why do we have that? Then in me, for example, like that, it's not like talking for political reward. And they are not even working. And that, for me, is a major worry. I remember in 2009, Adam FM, then based in Tema, carried out an extensive campaign on the motorway. We had platitudes of stories, nothing happened. Recently, Joy FM started, another radio station too has also started a campaign. But the question is, at what point do we as a nation put the brakes on and ask ourselves, are we not able to fix this? Because, I don't want to understand personally, to me, how we cannot fix this. I remember when I left New York in 2017, I got back there. Look, they were creating different lanes. I wanted my wife to battle the U.S. because that's where she's come from. And we're in Seattle. And they are cutting off a whole center part. And I asked the guy why. They said, they want to create additional 8 lanes in and out because the population size is increasing. And I started and asked myself, this 8 lanes in and out. My wife comes from a small community of less than 300 population, but if you see the roads that link their end all the way to California, you are amazed. So I ask myself, are we not the same human beings? Or maybe they have special brains than us. I don't even get it. That even a motorway cannot even be fixed by a nation state. And we always continue to dance around Ghana being the gateway to Africa. And sometimes I make fun of, and I tell friends that, look, I don't even think that the gate itself exists anymore. The gate is shut. So you, as a young person, you sit back and you ask yourself, where are we going? We are growing in age, in terms of our development, in terms of our infrastructure build-up, instead of even our own commitment to serving our own country. All these things continue to retrogress. Come to Prampram, for example. Sorry, I'm using Prampram a lot because I live there. You should see the community, the only community clinic that serves the whole community. It is in such a deplorable state, and sometimes you go there and you see medical doctors working under very deplorable conditions. And you ask yourself, what is the end game for them? What really, these young people graduate from school, they devote their time, they come to our community, and they give their all. But the tools, the skill set, the tools to help them work is not there. You go there, you see blankets. I remember when my dad was there before he passed. Men and women were sharing the same bed, in the same ward. There are no mosquito nets, there's nothing. In the state of Prampram. And these hospitals are all over the place. When you get sick, that's the first port of call for you before maybe they will then refer you to General Hospital or anything like that. But these are deplorable conditions. So ask yourself, how on earth are we supervising some of these things? In the run-up to campaign, you hear stories about we'll fix this, we'll fix that, and all of that. It seems to me that our politics has become more like a hub for wealth creation. So everybody wants to go to politics. So when you go there 2-3 days, so where's the call to service?
Annie,
why can't we fix the motorway?
Annie, you've raised a big one. I can literally hear people across the capital shouting with every point you are making, because we've all seen the state of that motorway. We all have to use it, and we've all decried its deplorable state. Thank you for bringing it to the fore. A lot of your texts and tweets have been coming through. Let me read just a few of them before we get back into our conversation. This one says, "Good morning, Kojo. The whole country needs fixing. From top government level to those of us neck deep in the arts, we never ever make it a priority. That for me is the problem with this country." And that one comes from George. Okay, this one says, "Everything is not working in Ghana." And it's from @Chinox, who tweets at us. This one says, this is from @Kojo Dave. It says, "The moral conscience of leadership is what we've lost as a nation. What we need is the fine balance between legality and morality." @11AZ Peliquetas, wow, what a name, as Peliquetas, says, everything is not working in Ghana. @Murphy18 says, "Nothing is working in this country. NDC, NPP destroy everything. At JR_Masaudu says, a country in which the lawmakers are the very people breaking the laws. A country that employs a president to serve only for the president to come to power and want to be served. These are the things that should change. At Chi_Nurse says, the two major political parties are our headache. We pray for a brighter Ghana. At Amwa Miracle says, what I want to see working in Ghana is the basic education system. As a teacher, I don't understand why we are in the 5th week in the 2nd term of 2023 academic year and basic 8 learners in public basic schools don't have teaching and learning materials. Now, there's another one here about basic schools. It's from at Papi Solo. This is at Papi Solo. He says, pick education, particularly at the basic level. We have completely ignored the foundation in our efforts to fix the roof. And we should go back and make basic not only free but also required, with laws to punish parents whose children are not in school. This one says, while I was in Ghana, I could say anytime I drove at night, I could count at least 3 vehicles with no lights driving on the roads. Even when they got to police checks, they managed to survive and drive off. The question is, why are the police there in the first place? At Isaac Afeji says, leadership is not working. At I Am Grace says, workers' welfare is neglected in Ghana. Employers do not care what happens to you outside the working environment. All they want is work, 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 and work. Your welfare is solely your own responsibility. Well, thank you for sharing all of those, and absolutely we will be wanting to hear more. But right now, let's have a round of solutions, okay? And this time around, I'll start on the phones. I'll start with Selorm, and as we set the format, you're going to address your solution to the person you believe should be taking the lead in solving it. Okay, so dear whomever or whichever institution or person, and then give us 2 minutes of your solution, Selorm.
Okay. Wow. So, dear President and dear Education Minister. We know that you want to leave a legacy for the rest of Ghana, a legacy that is unmatched in terms of instituting free education or being the one to bring a free education at the SHS level to all Ghanaian children. However, that legacy is bound to be tainted if the right steps are not taken to ensure that there is value that is taken out of the education. You cannot implement a system where people do not pay nothing and also get nothing in return. And then in such a system, we have wasted the number of years that the youth would have put into in the right formative years that would have created a situation for them where they would have thrived in society. The era or the time where political sloganeering was only used to gain votes and accolades and nothing else is gone. We are at a time where we need to be pragmatic. We need to understand ourselves and where we are and be honest with ourselves. The same way you were honest, or you had to be honest with Ghanaians, or you were put to be honest with Ghanaians to tell them that we would not be able to pay off our loans, etc., you would have to be honest to Ghanaians about the state of our education right now. And the Education Minister and the Ghana Education Service should not victimize headmasters and heads of schools who truly do not have the tools to implement these policies or these interventions that you are putting in at the detriment of the same children who are supposed to be recipients of this education. It is very important because a lot of parents have invested time and money to getting their children to the secondary school stage. And it will be very sad that at the very end of it, or at the pinnacle of their ability to learn or nurture themselves or become young adults, they will be victims of a system that they did not contribute in creating. When I say they did not contribute in creating, they did not contribute to the policy decisions. It is you and your minister and the Ghana Education Service that has a full reign in this. However, I believe that you should take politics out of it, adopt a multi-partisan, multi-stakeholder approach to put this problem bigger than your image, bigger than your party, and put this problem at the foot of the nation, so that as a nation we resolve this once and for all through pragmatic means and not through means that are defined by the size of the collective ego of you or your party members. And this is what I have to say. The solutions are right here. We know the solutions. We know that if we are democratic enough and we give the headmasters and those who run the schools and those who are experts in running the schools for so long the chance, they will create pragmatic solutions that will ensure sustainability and create a youth or a Ghanaian young adult that will be ready to take the world on. Right. Unfortunately, at this stage, we are only creating a situation that will cause a disaster in the very near future. So if anybody is listening close to the president, close to the education minister, close to the heads of the Ghana Education Service hierarchy, they should allow pragmatism to take place and let the experts who are doing the thing dictate the pace. And they should not victimize headmasters and school administrators who are just trying to do their best to squeeze water out of stones. And let's all ensure that we create a nation that is strong and resilient, that is ready to face the future. Thank you.
You stole an extra minute or two there, Selorm, but I'll let you off. I'll let you off this time. But we're trying to stick to 2 minutes. We're coming into the studio now. Gerard.
Mr. President and the Interior Minister, first of all, I'd like to congratulate the people you've put in place, the Director General, the officer in charge of the correctional centers, who are doing so much with very little. But on that note, the Interior Minister should request and vote funds into improving the facilities that are there for correcting these boys or correcting these inmates, particularly the juvenile prisons. It is very, very, very important that these facilities are resourced and financed throughout the time that they exist. And mind you, if we think that our kids are not in the correctional institutions and that it doesn't matter, these kids are going to grow up and hang out with our kids who have received the best of training in future, and they'll be leaders of Ghana. Imagine what will happen. And this letter is copied to all good-meaning Ghanaians, because we can get on board and support the improvement of these correctional programs in the prison. So copied to Ghanaians.
I love that. Copied to Ghanaians. Thank you, Gerard. And thanks for sticking to the 2 minutes. I appreciate that very much. Okay, let's have your solution, Annie.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'll start with a quote by the Minister for Roads and Highways, and the person of Kwesi Amwakwata, the Honorable. And in June 17th, 2022, he said this in Parliament. And it has to do with the motto. He said, and in talking about the fact that funds have been secured and all of that, this is what he said the motto will look like. He said it will comprise of freeway, access control, 3 urban highways, and a number of footbridges for pedestrian crossing. Unquote. Mr. Honorable Mokwata, thank you very much for this revelation. That is in June 2022. Unfortunately, as we said, even the place where the re-engineering work took place at the Lakpele River on the motorway is in a deplorable state. I don't know which briefing you get from your engineers, whether they're telling you the truth or not, but I will humbly appeal to you that you take a duty tour, perhaps maybe unannounced, to the motorway and see how ordinary motorists are suffering on that particular stretch. I don't know for a fact, but I've heard that you live in Tema, and perhaps way before becoming a minister, you might have grumbled about the nature of the motorway. You have relatives who drive on the motorway, and they tell you the conditions and all of that. All over the world, leaders are defined by the legacy they live. It could be right, it could be wrong. If today we hit on a motorway, the first person that comes to mind is Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah of blessed memory. I never met Kwame Nkrumah. My parents met him. But I know about Kwame Nkrumah because of his works. So in the future, your stewardship as a minister of roads and highways in this country will not necessarily be defined by the title you carry, but to be defined by whether or not you work in the interest of your people. We know the motorway is not going to be an easy pie to eat, but we trust that once you handle the responsibility of the president to take up the job with all the perks associated with it, you will attend to these basic things to ensure that our country becomes a model for the rest of the world. We cannot talk about the gateway to Africa when the very roads on which we use to get to a destination cannot be accessible.
Indeed.
And this letter is copied to the president himself, the chief of staff, and every road user. And this letter actually is coming from myself and on behalf of the many who use the Tama motorway. Thank you.
Yeah, there are many of us, Annie. Thank you for that. Only overrun a little bit, so yeah, okay. All right. Finally, Theodore Achina-Nyarko.
Okay, I hope I'll be able to make the 2 minutes because I intend to speak both as a lawyer and a criminologist in this regard. Okay. I propose what I call the twin solution, which is a combination of education and enforcement of the law. And by way of education, I'm calling on the authorities, like the National Civic Authority, the media, to take it upon themselves to educate these farmers who are into the cattle business that their act is a threat to the society and they must desist from that. I make this argument of education knowing very well as a lawyer that the old principle in law is that it goes like ignorantia juris non excusat, which means ignorance of the law is no excuse. Yet, I would always want to propose education as the first step in dealing with issues of criminal nature. And I'm saying this on the back of the argument of the social control theories within the umbrella of criminology, who argue that man is born free to break the law. And so what this means is that it's an acknowledgement of that pathology, pathological nature that makes man susceptible to criminal tendency. Secondly, it tells you that you cannot leave man to chance to conform. And finally, on that, what it tells you that the onus lie on the society to take it upon itself to socialize man to conform. On the back of this, you all agree with me that we cannot write off education. And so it's important that we take this upon us as a country and let the people who are corporate know that it is dangerous and it is something that we don't accept. Right. The second solution has to do with enforcement of the law. And I say this because if we have all the beautiful laws and we are not ready to enforce them, it's like having nothing. And by way of enforcing the law, it means that we are giving people the opportunity to defend themselves. But when they are found guilty, I'm of the view that the punishment that follows must be administered, in my opinion, within the contemporary deterrence approach, where punishment are supposed to be severe, yet they must be proportionate to the offense. And also it must be swiftly administered to attain both specific and general deterrence. When we're talking about specific and general deterrence, we are only talking about dealing with the individual offender. But what is more is that we attain that holistic effect where the general population or the entire population will learn that it doesn't pay to commit crimes of this kind of nature, and address this to all well-meaning Ghanaians.
Wonderful. Only Gerard stuck to my 2 minute champion. So if I have a prize, it's yours. but we've learned so much from all of our guests, and it's been an eye opener. This is what we want to do on a regular basis: take back the power as the people and lead the agenda and say what matters to us and pursue these issues to their natural solutions. We've made sure that as the conversation has progressed, all the necessary people who must be listening have been informed to tune in. We'll send them clips of this, and we'll follow up and make sure that all these issues are directly addressed, and we'll bring feedback to you, our audience. Thank you, Theodore. Thank you, Gerard. Thank you, Selorm. Thank you, Annie, for your time with us this morning. We appreciate you ever so much. At Isaac Afeji says leadership is not working. At X by T says there's no future plan for any youth in this country by any political party that is given the helm to lead this country. You need to make your own plan. At Amegashi, Viglo says, can we regularize spot fines by police? Ghana will make more revenue than the e-levy, and the process can be very stress-free. At Eben Watts says, Ghana itself is not working. At Ali Sule says, inflation and high interest rates have whipped out all our meager salaries. Let's take some calls. Nana Kwesi is on the line from East Legon. Nana Kwesi, good morning.
Good morning.
Charlie, within 1 minute, tell me, what's your agenda?
The whole Ghana system is my agenda. So my address goes to the first gentleman, to the last Ghanaian on the ground. We all have a responsibility. And I want to tell the people out there that there's a reason why we choose leaders. There's a reason why we choose leaders, even though we all have a responsibility to contribute to build the nation. There's a reason why we choose leaders. The people down here, we can do whatever we do. But if those up there who make the final decision, basically our lives are in their hands. If they choose to mess up over there, they will mess us up. And whatever we do down there wouldn't matter. This is my address to them. Ghana is bigger than their political party. They should choose Ghana first, or else we will come after them.
Wow, thank you, Nana Kwesi. Thanks so much for sharing. That's his agenda. Let's go to Asylum Down. Hello, Nee.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, my brother. What's your agenda?
My agenda. Good morning to your listeners. The agenda is, can we have a system where the president does not appoint the sensible people that must be or that must occupy the various governmental institutions? I call them sensible because they must be sensible. The president must not appoint them. If the president does not appoint them, one, we'll be solving a problem. If we the citizens can look within ourselves and say, okay, where does this stop? When does this stop? How do we stop it? Because, look, we have about 35 million people, and trust me, we know what the next person is doing that is wrong, but see nothing, say, you see nothing, you say nothing, you see nothing, you see evil, you don't say anything. Nothing gets changed.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, Nee. Let's go to Medina. Hello, Ernest.
Yeah, hello, good morning, Kojo.
Good morning, my brother. How are you?
I'm doing well, and you?
I'm okay, by God's grace. Ernest, what's your agenda?
Okay, first of all, I want to thank you, Joy FM team, for working for Mother Ghana. Happy Workers' Day to all the team.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
I would want to say that I want the judiciary to work well, because if you have never been to court, you will not know what happened. But if you have been there, that you see the reality. I want justice for everyone, Kojo. I have an issue myself. I'll be so happy to share with Joy FM so that, let's say, they can follow it up for me. So
Okay.
I want the judiciary to work well, so that everybody can get justice in this country.
Yeah. Ernest, please feel free to speak to our producers of the off-air and let them know what the issue is. And if it's something we can help with, it will be our pleasure. All right. We're going back to Prampram. This is Nixon Yeboah. Nixon, good morning.
Nixon, good morning.
Thanks for calling us. What's your agenda?
My agenda is that Ghanaians should vote out both NPP and NDC, period. The two governments have been in politics, active politics, for 32 years. NPP is almost 16 years old. We've not gotten anything significant. There are few words I would always use to describe both NPP and NDC. Mediocre, myopic, and misguided. And Ghanaians shouldn't be mediocre by saying that Mahama did a mediocre job, therefore we should give the country to him. We should just look outside these two for once. We will not die. These two people are taking us for granted. They have done this seamlessly for 32 years, and we are here. We settle for so much. We settle for less. We always settle for less. This one did one. I did half. I did better than this. Why do we do that when we have all the resources to get to 1,000? That is the message I want to give to Ghanaians today. Let us reflect on our decisions we take during elections. Let us know that the decision we make will be the consequences of our life for the next 4 to 8 years. Let us not say, "Oyeme papa, oyeme wafa." Oyo papa no yevi. Inyimde papa okoha. Onya the papa menye. Atai also had a family. But look at where we kept him. We have these people within our midst. We know when they go into active politics, they are not going to do anything better for the country. That's my message for today, and that's my message for today.
Wow,
thank you very much.
Nixon. Thanks very much. Yeah, a quick translation there of the Fanti. He said that if you're, don't say that because someone is your father, you're going to support them. If your father is a thief, you know it. Okay, then, let's go to Adenta. Hello, Kobe.
Hello.
Hi, Kobe. How are you?
I'm good, and you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for calling us. So, what's your agenda?
Got to do with the media. I think for me, the media hasn't, they really haven't lived up to expectations. With currently what in the past, we realized that the media was contributing meaningfully to the growing of our country. But what we see these days, most of the media have aligned, some of them have aligned themselves to either the opposition or the government, and therefore reporting information have become they don't really report the actual things on the ground. They don't really, seriously, they don't give good information on the ground as compared to previously at all. And therefore, if the media should do their best and contribute meaningfully, then I think Ghana will see, a true thing. Why am I saying that? You realize that these days, even the media stations, some, let me even use some of the local, or let's say the free speaking station. We have a whole lot of people sitting there who have not been trained by virtue of they having the chance to sit on the radio station, insult people, and they don't even know what the whole media space is all about.
Very good, very valid point, Kobe. And the media certainly needs feedback. Thank you for that. Okay, let's talk to Eddie. Eddie is in Dansoman. Eddie is our final caller. Eddie, good morning.
Good morning, Kojo. How are you doing?
I'm very well. Thank you for calling us. What's your agenda?
Yeah, my agenda, Kojo, this morning has to do with the youth. You know, the youth in this country have a lot of opportunity. But what do we see? Once they align themselves with these old men, then everything goes bad. You know, I've been listening to Joy FM since 1995. All the young men who were at Joy FM by then, I really admire them. The Sandobis, the Kujo Ponkromes, Komunadumo. But what did we see? Sometimes when they're on radio, they talk as if they are not aligned to any political party. But the next moment, you see them in a government. It's good to be in a government, but they allow these old men to corrupt their future to the extent that they cannot even speak. Today, I'm listening to Kojo Jansen. I've been listening to Winston, Mama V, and the rest. I hope one day I'll not see you people aligning yourself with any of these political parties where you cannot even talk. I'm very sad with somebody like Kujo Ponkroma. I'm really sad. But what do we do? It's all about money. 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 It's all about money. I'm almost 6 years old. I look at my children. Some of them are just about 24, 25. what future do they have? Because what future do they have? And they think about what they get today. I started life with nothing, but with hard work. At least God has blessed me. So there is future for the kids or for the youth, but they have to rise and say no to when the old men say something bad to them.
Well,
thank you very much, Julio.
Thank you very much, and appreciate it. You know, you might think that some old man is corrupting somebody, but maybe they themselves, they were corrupt. Anyway, thank you for sharing your thoughts. We appreciate it very much. Thanks to all of you who called us. In fact, just before we say goodbye, because we've had quite a great show, we're going to end on a lovely, lovely note. Our guest Theodore has a very special message for someone, don't you, Theodore?
Thank you very much, Kojo. I want to take the opportunity of having to be here this afternoon, this morning, to say happy birthday to my wife, Araba.